Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast, and we're going to return to a brewery who I've reviewed a good few beers from now. I think this is review number 8 or so involving this brewery, and these guys are very well known for their big sweet sours, and I've had some really nice beers in that category from them lately, and this is the latest release that they have. So for this one then, we are going to return to DuckPond Brewing, and today we're having a taste of the Black and Blue. So this one comes in at 4.5% ABV, and this is a Berliner Weisse with blackcurrants and blueberries added to the beer, hence the name. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment for November of 2020 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. The exact release date was the 1st of November, if I remember rightly, and like I said, this brewery are very well known for their big sweet sours these days. The most recent ones I've had in that category have been the Topolino, and of course you've got the Darkwing, which seems to be a regular in the Systembolaget range as well. Those are two very, very nice sour beers actually. So yeah, if you are into these big fruity, almost kind of creamy Goses and Berliner Weisses, then DuckPond Brewery are one that I would highly recommend that you check out. In the Gothenburg area there's also Morgendagens, you know, Fermentarana's not too far away from Gothenburg either. Dugges of course do some really nice sour beers, and then further afield from that you've also got some very good sour beer breweries. Down here in Skåne you have Brekeriet, away up in the north you have Jämmerdalen Hantverksbryggeri, who are very, very small actually. But yeah, you're not short of choices when it comes to nice sour beers in Sweden these days. So yeah, DuckPond would be one of the ones that I would highly recommend that you check out if you are interested in these big, sweet, fruity sour beers. So yeah, definitely nice to have another one of their beers to review here for you on the channel, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. Very curious to see what this one has in store for us today. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from DuckPond Brewing before, and no doubt you will see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is massively, massively appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about DuckPond Brewing once again. So as I've told you before, DuckPond Brewing were previously known as Mikrofonbryggeriet, the microphone brewery if you want to translate it into English, and this company is the brainchild of Nikola Sarcevic, who is a singer and songwriter for the band Millencolin, which has been making music since 1993. So the band was originally based in Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, but then they took a break and Nikola moved to Gothenburg. And in 2013 he began homebrewing with his friend Christian Silva while he was studying international marketing in Skövde. So the two were brewing in very small 20-litre batches together, and then Nikola went to Berlin to study a 2-week brewing course, and after this they started the company officially together, and it was based for a while in Nikola's house, and it was brewing very small but quite large, you know, fairly large and by comparison 200-litre batches. But they changed the name of the brewery in summer of 2019. Basically they felt that they wanted a more kind of international name if you like, but they've been working to increase the output of the brewery ever since, and they're also one of the co-owners of the Wizard Brewing brand along with Morgendagens. Like I mentioned earlier, another very good Gothenburg sour beer brewery. As of November 2020 though, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 22 different beers under the DuckPond name, and I'm not sure if some of the other ones, of some of the old Mikrofonbryggeriet beers will be re-released under the DuckPond name actually. So yeah, as I say, a very, very good brewery. They started out brewing mainly IPAs and these kind of sour beers, but I think these days they are mainly just kind of sticking to the sort of sour beers, although in fairness last month or quite recently we had an Imperial Stout from them, which I have to say it was very quirky and very interesting actually. So I do hope we see a few more IPAs and a few more other things from these guys, but you know, if you want, I would always, if someone asked me what would I associate DuckPond Brewing with, it would be those big, sweet, fruity sours. And Darkwing is one that I would really recommend that you have a go at if you haven't already. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about DuckPond Brewing for the moment. These guys are a very, very new brewery on the scene, but one, as I say, that I highly recommend you check out. So yeah, check out the brewery website in the video description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on to the tasting of this beer then and see how we got on. So as you can see, this one has a little baby duckling on the artwork here, and you can see there's lots of other little ducks and birds and things. There's lots of different kind of types of ducks on this. Actually, I'm not familiar with the exact species of ducks and things like that, and I do wonder what the reason behind them calling the brewery DuckPond actually was. I've never found that out. I maybe need to message them and ask them what the reason was. But yeah, like I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 4.5% ABV Berliner Weisse, and it's brewed with blackcurrants and blueberry, hence the name Black and Blue. But this one contains wheat and oats, so yeah, this will be another big creamy beast of a beer from these guys, I think. 440ml can, and as I said earlier, this was released as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment for Systembolaget in November of 2020. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Hopefully this turns out to be another very, very nice beer. So yeah, there we go. Very curious about this one, I have to say. This looks lovely. You always get some awesome colours from these Berliner Weisses. And one of the things I would always say about the Berliner Weisses and the Goses, they're quite simple beers in terms of their flavour profiles. I mean, they're not the most complex of things, but if they're done right, they can be really, really very, very nice. And you know, DuckPond have been doing it right. Let's just say that. So yeah, we've got about 2/3 of the beer in the glass, and that should be enough to have a look at the aroma and the appearance of the beer for the moment. So yeah, this one, this one has a lovely finger of, I would say, a very kind of pink rosé coloured head actually. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just kind of dotting up towards the bottom of that head there. And the colour of the beer itself is definitely, it's really like a kind of Ribena type colour, this one. It's a very dark maroon, almost Heart of Midlothian kind of colour, this one. Heart of Midlothian, of course, football team from Edinburgh in Scotland. It really reminds me of the colour of their shirt actually. My team, Dunfermline Athletic, years ago, in the early days, they used to wear a kind of maroon colour. I think it was either their original home strip, I think it might have been the original home colours, and then they switched to the black and white stripes that they're now famous for, of course. So yeah, the maroon colour of this one is quite nice, I have to say. But yeah, it looks very, very nice, this one. It's kind of what you would expect from blueberries and blackberries, to be honest, when you would mix them together. I'd say it probably leans a little bit more towards the kind of blackberry colour actually. So yeah, or it's blackcurrant, sorry, not blackberry. Blackcurrants, yeah. So yeah, it looks very, very nice. Not overly surprising considering what style this one is and what fruits are involved here, but it definitely leans more towards the blackcurrant colour for me, and hence why I said it looks like Ribena. For those of you that don't know, I can't remember if you actually get Ribena here in Sweden, but Ribena is a blackcurrant drink that is quite famous in Scotland, and I think the English and stuff have it as well, but it's quite a well-known drink that you give kids when they're quite young. You get all different flavours, but blackcurrant is the kind of staple one, if you like. But yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. Not surprising when you think of what style this beer is. If we shine the light through this beer, there is virtually nothing coming through it. This is a big hazy beast of a Berliner Weisse, but you know, these beers are usually low alcohol. This one's 4.5%, but you still get a hell of a lot of haze out of them. One, because of the wheat, and two, because of the oats and you know, the fruit juice. The fruits are going to play a role in this as well. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we go. And it certainly looks the part for this style of beer. Ooh, yeah. This one smells lovely. I've always wondered with these beers, because you know, it doesn't say, they have to say if it has lactose in it, and this one doesn't list it, so it won't have lactose on it. But the thing that I've always wondered about these Berliner Weisses is how they get such a creamy, almost milkshakey thing out of them. That's what you're going to notice with this beer straight away. The oats in this one really give you that big, creamy sort of milkshakey thing. It's got a lovely, big, just oaty creaminess to it. You can smell a little bit of the wheaty bitiness towards the back of the nose, but again, the oats are smoothing everything out in the malt base in this one, definitely. If you take the aroma in really deeply, as I say, at the back of the nose, you will get a little bit of that kind of pungency from the wheat, a little bit of that kind of bitiness. But overall, the malty side of this beer really is big and oaty and creamy. It almost just smells like a milkshake or a smoothie or something like this. I've always been curious as to how they do that with the oats and how they get them to smell kind of yogurty as they do. I mean, the malt base in this beer really smells a little bit like a kind of petit filou yogurt type thing. But as we say, there's not lactose in this, but it really gives the impression that there is something like that in the beer. So yeah, a little bit of bitiness from the wheat, but it's all oats. It's big and milkshakey, big and kind of lactosey, yogurty. That is your malty backbone of the beer, not too complex. And this is, as I say, the thing with these Berliner Weisses and the Goses and stuff like this. They're not so complex in terms of the aroma, but you do get they're just beautiful. They just taste very, very nice. When they're done right, they turn out beautifully. And I've got a feeling this one is going to be another thing like that. For me, even though this beer doesn't have hops, it doesn't have hops listed on the thing here. And this is kind of common actually. Either when it comes to Berliner Weisses, they'll either add old hops to the beer so that it doesn't kind of take away from the sourness, or they just won't add hops at all. That's the thing with the more kind of modern breweries, if you like. The more traditional ones will always add a bit of hop to the Berliner Weisses and the Goses and stuff. But this one, even though it doesn't have hops in it, I do think it still comes across as a little bit kind of a little bit grassy in my mind. So yeah, you do get a little bit of grassiness and almost a little touch of floral character out of it as well, even though there's no hops in it. It's maybe just a little bit of a placebo effect in fairness, but yeah, the aroma that comes out of this, I have to say, is absolutely beautiful. For me, I think it's the blackcurrants that dominate the fruity side of things here. And I will say, this beer, you do get a nice little bit of tartness out of it, and for me it's quite a tart blackcurrant-y note that comes out of this one, but I would say the blackcurrants really dominate the aroma, whereas the blueberries just give you a little bit more depth to it, if that makes sense. The blueberries give you can smell the blueberries underneath the blackcurrants, but I think the blackcurrants really, really dominate this one. They give it the juiciness, they give it the kind of slightly tart character, but then yeah, the blueberries come across as being just a little bit more kind of oily and sitting in the background for me compared to the blackcurrants. But yeah, it's a remarkably simple beer in terms of its aroma profile, but I don't think anyone would debate that beer smells absolutely beautiful. As I've said sometimes quite a few times on the channel before, sometimes simplicity is the key, and I think the Berliner Weisse and the Gose are two styles that prove just that, especially these ones from DuckPond, like I say. But yeah, nice sharpness from the blackcurrants and quite a juiciness to it as well, and then the blueberry for me just sits kind of underneath. And it's surprising that, because I've always found blueberries to be a lot more tart than blackcurrants actually in the past. But yeah, it smells like a lovely, lovely beer, this one. Take a little bit of time to appreciate that aroma before you get stuck in. What I will say about this beer as well is, I do wonder with this, if this is just pure fruit that's in here, but I do wonder if there is just a little touch of flavour essence in this beer as well. You can actually smell with this one, it has that sort of almost, you can smell a little bit of the kind of brambly thing from the, you can smell a little bit of the kind of brambly, florally thing from the blueberry, but you also just get a little touch of a kind of candied fruit sort of thing from this one. And it wouldn't surprise me with a lot of these very big sweet Berliner Weisses if they also put just a little bit of that kind of flavour essence in there, just to almost round off the flavour a little bit. You do get a little element of that kind of candied sort of thing going on in the aroma here, but it does, as I say, come across really nicely. You get the natural tartness, you get the natural tartness from the fruits in this, and a lot of the natural juiciness, and you just get a wee bit of that kind of candied sort of thing underneath, which is the flavour essences. So yeah, I do wonder with this beer if it has a little bit of that, but it smells beautiful. As I say, take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma, but we're going to taste this one now. So this one is the Black and Blue, a 4.5% Berliner Weisse, with blackcurrants and blueberries, hence the name, from DuckPond Brewing in Gothenburg up on the west coast of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, really looking forward to this. Cheers. Yeah, that's another beautiful, beautiful beer. I'm not surprised at this stage, you know. Topolino was great, Darkwing was great. I'm trying to remember what the other one that I had from them was, but I've had a succession of really good sour beers from these guys, and I'm at the point now where I look out to see what DuckPond have coming out each month, because I enjoy these. I always keep an eye out for what DuckPond and Morgendahlens are putting out there. At some point when I've reviewed quite a few of these, I'm going to forget which one of these breweries has done what. But this is lovely, so thumbs up to DuckPond Brewing once again. Yeah, it's a solid beer, that. And again, it's one of these ones, like I say, where it's the simplicity of it that really is the key. Berliner Weisses and Goses for me, these big fruity ones, very simple in terms of their flavour, their flavour profiles, but they're just done very, very well. These beers are ones for me that are just very, very well crafted. So yeah, where to start with this one then? I mean, straight away with this beer, you get that blend of oaty and wheaty notes just across there. Middle of your palate, it's got a really, really thick, big, creamy oaty character to this one. You do almost get, you know, on top of that big, thick oatiness that it has, you do get a little bit of that kind of more, it almost does feel like a lactosey, yogurty kind of thing, and the oats in this one really have that very, very big and thick consistency. One of the things I'm noticing about this beer, the further that I go into the aftertaste, I do get a teeny little bit of an almost Werther's Original type butter candy type thing evolving in the middle of the palate, and that's probably related to the alcohol that's in the beer, of course, but yeah, I do get a little bit of that butter candy sort of thing coming out of this beer, which is really nice. But yeah, it's lovely. It is lovely just how that goes together. Again, it's very simple. It's literally, pardon me, one flavour in the middle of the palate here, with those big, you know, that big oaty creaminess, and then a little bit of an almost butter candy Werther's Original type thing sitting on top of it. But it really forms an awesome backbone for this kind of beer. If you go towards the back third of your palate, you can feel it starts to get a little bit more bready, and in fairness, as the flavour of this beer evolves, you do start to get, it does almost feel like the backbone of the beer is like a very soft, white bready character. And then the big creamy oats in the middle of the palate just kind of sits on top of that, but then on the back third of your tongue, you've got a nice kind of soft, white bready sort of thing to this one, which I think comes across really, really nicely. You do get one or two tiny little kind of grainy elements out of the beer, but yeah, the wheat in this beer, it does have a little tiny bit of bite at the very, very back of the palate, but otherwise it gives you a bit of smoothness as you move further forward, and then you've got some nice, soft, white bready sort of things coming out of it. So yeah, I really like how that goes together. Yeah, I really like the malt base in this one. It is quite similar to the other ones that I've had from these guys, but you know, they've got a solid base beer in there. You can't blame them for kind of using something similar. This one does strike me as being a little bit more kind of bready compared to some of the other ones that I've had from DuckPond before, especially as the flavour evolves. But you know, it could be that I'm just getting used to the flavour profiles of these beers, and I don't find them as kind of striking, if you like, as I once did. You know, your palate's constantly changing when you're drinking all of these different craft beers. But yeah, this one, for me, I think is very, very nice. Actually, I really like how this goes together. Again, very simple in the very simple in its malt composition, but that really works for it. On the I would say the hoppy side of things, but on the sides of the palate then, because there's no hops in this beer, to me I do get a little bit of a very small little bit of earthiness out of this one, and it does, it feels very smooth on the side of the tongue as you go further forward, but for me, round the tip of the palate, you do get just a little bit of an almost grassy sort of thing. As I said, there are not hops in this beer. There's not hops in this beer, but I always find with these ones, I do get a little bit of grassiness out of them, and it must just be some sort of placebo, because like I say, there's no kind of hoppy characters in this one. But we're going to focus on that front third of the palate now, and that's where those lovely, pardon me, kind of fruity characters start to come out of the beer. And the thing that I like about these ones is that you've just got that balance, you've just got a little bit of sourness to them and a hell of a lot of juiciness, and it's quite it is quite sort of puckering actually. It's got a little bit of puckering quality in the beginning, but then it's just very, very juicy after that. So yeah, I really like the juiciness you get out of this one again. It kind of matches what I picked up from the Aroma, but the other thing is the sour quality just lingers into the aftertaste a little bit. For me, it's the blackcurrants that really give it the kind of tartness there. It's interesting. How do we describe this? On the towards the back of that front third of your palate, you get the blackcurrants, and I think you get the sourness there, but on the very tip of the tongue, you get the sourness from the blueberries. So in that sense, the sour notes in this beer are quite different from what you would pick up in the Aroma, but the fruity juiciness is exactly as I described it. I think the blackcurranty notes dominate the blueberry notes in that sense as well, but it's almost like the front of your tongue is quite divided actually. Like I say, the front half of that front third of your tongue, that's the blueberries, because the blueberry flavour I think comes across as a little bit more sort of oily and thick, if you like. It really just comes across a little bit more like that, and you get a real tartness out of it on the very kind of front edge of the tongue. You really get that, and that lingers a little bit more into the aftertaste. If you go to the back half of that front third of your tongue, you do get almost on the border region with the middle third of your palate, you get the tartness out of the blackcurrants there, and then the slightly lighter juiciness from the blackcurrants coming out there. So it's quite interesting for me how the beer kind of seems to divide itself in that way. But the sourness, as you go further into the aftertaste, I think it starts to spread its way back along the kind of front corners of the palate. I would say that is more of a kind of blueberry tartness in there. I think the level of tartness you get out of the two fruits in this one is, pardon me, pretty similar. But yeah, I think the blueberry does linger a little bit more and becomes a little bit more pungent the further you go into the aftertaste. So that's a really interesting thing that I've never noticed with these fruits before. But in fairness, I think most of the beers I've had from DuckPond have had 3 fruits in them. So maybe if you've only got 2, they will start to kind of diverge a little bit. But yeah, front half of the front third of your tongue for me, that is more kind of oily and blueberry-like, whereas the back half of that front third of your tongue is definitely lighter, more juicy, and kind of blackcurranty leaning in my mind. That's a really interesting point to make about this beer. As I said, the flavour composition of this one is quite straightforward. You've only got a couple of different flavours in this one compared to what you might have in a big imperial stout such as the Masala that we reviewed from these guys last time. But as I say, for me, the Berliner Weisses, it's all about the transition of flavour these things make when you go from that big sharp note to the kind of juicy kind of fruity side of things. It's all about the transition of flavours that they make, and this one for me comes across really nicely. And this, DuckPond are consistently good with this style. I really like what these guys are doing with these Berliner Weisses, and this is another very, very solid example actually. Is this my favourite one that I've had? It's hard to say because they've all been very, very good, and to be honest, in terms of personal preference, you just pick ones that have fruits that you like in them. I mean, the Topolino was a more tropical leaning one, the Darkwing one, I can't remember what fruits were in that, to be quite honest with you. I honestly can't remember. But it was quite similar in terms of its profile to this one. So, when it comes to the DuckPond beers, just pick one that has fruits you like, and I'm sure you will quite enjoy it. These guys really know what they're doing with these styles. So yeah, this is one of these beers that again shows you simplicity can be key to making a good beer. So yeah, big thumbs up to DuckPond once again for this beautiful, beautiful Berliner Weisse. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure that Darkwing is actually a Gose. I'm pretty sure that one's a Gose, and I'm sure it has blackberries and blueberries in it. I'm sure it was maybe a triple berry Gose, maybe raspberries, blackberries and blueberries. I think that's what that one might have been. Correct me on that in the comments section below if I'm wrong, which could well be. But again, beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. I really like it. The one thing I would say about these styles is I would probably struggle to notice when one of them is a Gose and when one of them is a Berliner Weisse, because the focus is all on the big juicy fruity side of the beer. But yeah, you do get a little bit, I would say in the flavour of this one as well, the candied notes that I was talking about that you might get from flavour essence, they're not as noticeable in the flavour as they are in the Aroma. And actually the flavour makes me wonder if I was wrong in saying that, because it does give you a little bit of that more, you do get a little bit of that almost kind of brambly type flavour coming out of this beer again the further you go into the aftertaste and the further you let the flavour develop. But as I say, beautiful beer this one regardless, very, very nice. In terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off the review, I would say that this beer, it's one of the thicker sours you're going to come across. I've always found that sours are slightly lighter in their mouthfeel compared to the kind of regular beer styles, but it's got a lovely big thick sort of creamy thing to it, as I said, so it's one of the thicker creamy. It's generally speaking, it's a thicker kind of creamier beer, and I would say in terms of the sours it is very thick, so it's probably fair to say this beer is pretty full bodied actually. I think this one might feel a little bit lighter than the tropical one that we had last time, the Topolino, so I would maybe say that about this, and maybe some of the gozes have felt a little bit thicker than this as well, the Darkwing, but maybe that's the saltiness in those beers. But yeah, quite a full-bodied beer, this one, there's no doubt in my mind about that. Very smooth carbonation overall, the mouthfeel, as I say, is very, very thick and creamy. This beer, I'm sure it will have 0 calculated IBUs, but I think you'll get a couple out of this, maybe 5 IBUs at maximum. As I said earlier, the malt base in this one is really lovely and creamy thanks to the oats. There is a wee bit of a kind of white breadiness, a soft white breadiness under there for me, but yeah, very, very smooth, very creamy, and just a very slight touch of sweetness in the malt base here. Fruitiness, lovely and juicy. It's not the most puckering of sours that you're going to come across, but this one I think is just a little touch sharper than some of the other ones, and that divide that you have between the blueberries at the very front of the tongue and the blackcurrants just a little bit further back, I think is the kind of really unique point about this beer actually. The way those berry flavours come out, or the berry and currant flavours come out, is really nice. Berries of course tend to be a little bit more tart, currants are a little bit more kind of juicy, and that really shows in this beer actually. This one would be quite different if it was blackberries and blueberries that was in this one. So yeah, you'd probably get, I think you would probably find that the black part of the black and blue would be a little bit more kind of prominent as well, and it would probably kind of merge into one big sort of sour thing. So I think the use of a currant and the use of a blue and the use of a berry really allows the fruit flavours to separate a little bit and just make the beer that little bit more kind of complex as well. As you go further into the aftertaste as well with this beer, you will notice a few kind of candied notes, like a little bit of a figgy note and kind of almost kind of plummy kind of note coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, it's really nice how this goes together, and as I said, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Another very awesome creamy, big creamy sour beer from DuckPond Brewing, and that's what I would always associate this brewery with. They're doing some awesome stuff, and this is no exception to that rule in my mind. So yeah, definitely cool to have another one of these big fruity DuckPond sours here on the channel. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one, because I certainly have. So check out this beer if you get the chance, and as I say, try the Topolino and the Darkwing. I think the Darkwing is a regular beer in the System Lager range, so that is one that should be fairly easy to get a hold of. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this review. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from DuckPond Brewing. We will return to these guys at some point in the fairly near future, I have no doubt about that, because I do enjoy their beers. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, and I'll catch you guys very soon. This one was the Black and Blue, a 4.5% Berliner Weisse with black currants and blueberries from DuckPond Brewing in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Awesome stuff. Do make sure you check out this brewery, and if you can still get a hold of it, check out this beer, the Black and Blue. Slange, skull, cheers, and thanks for watching.